Good morning. My name is Pastor Jim Wells on staff at CIC right here in South Attleboro, Massachusetts. And I recently watched a documentary called My Octopus Teacher. Free diver and filmmaker Craig Foster tells this amazing, unique story about his friendship and bond with an octopus in a kelp forest right off of Cape Town in South Africa. This documentary follows Foster as he battles career exhaustion and depression by going through these daily swims in these frigid South African coast waters. And as he entered into this water, he just finds it refreshing and restoring. And as we enter into this November with this pandemic, I'm not sure how you're feeling. Are you struggling with disconnection, discouragement, or even depression, like many are as a result of what we're going through? As Craig Foster focuses on this kelp forest, he ends up finding this common octopus, and he starts to spend his time each day free diving daily with this octopus. During his visits, he observes her in her natural habitat. He's amazed at her ability to find clever ways to evade predators and adapt to her environment. Before your eyes, the octopus adapts her crab hunting strategy and uses it for lobster. She constantly is having to evade these pajama sharks. And in one scene, she actually climbs onto the back. Or she shapeshifts to resemble seaweed or rocks or shells. This common octopus applies her intelligence and creativity to survive the challenges about her in her environment. This unlikely relationship between them is a mentorship on the fragility of life and then man's connection to nature. And especially how well Craig Foster does it with he's very melodious, his voice is very calming, and it actually matches the environment. This interaction with Mr. Foster and this octopus ends pretty close to the end of the octopus's life, as the octopus actually swims up and clings to Foster's chest in a display of amazing interspecies connection. So where am I going here? At all times we need to explore biology from a Christian worldview. Why? Because it will help you in your life and in your response to what's going on about you, even today during this pandemic, in this terribly politically packed, hysterical season that we're in. You see, we need to develop scientifically informed and biblically based perspectives on difficult topics, how creation and evolution might even fit together, and why you matter in a community you live in, and to find ways to adapt to what's happening about you so you can be better prepared and better equipped to respond effectively. Today I'm going to go through 7 ways that you should be adapting in a new place, a new job, or other major changes that could be happening in your life. And in 2020, there could be many. The first one I'm going to talk about is let's be content. Now that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. And in every circumstances, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, or abundance and need. That Paul wrote that. Whenever we live a life that's hard and just filled with difficulties, and yet we are contented, and it is mostly in those circumstances when we display that we're pleasing to God, when we can adapt to our circumstances and still give God praises and glory for his goodness. God is really happy with that. But when we are discontented with our circumstances, and we can tell God we're not satisfied, it's like we're not satisfied with him. We need to not let that happen to us. Don't let the circumstances rob you of your joy, because your joy isn't dependent upon what happens in life, good or bad, but it needs to be dependent on Jesus and what he's already done for you. Number 2, be a friend to all. For though I am free from all, I have made myself a servant to all, that I might win more of them. To the Jews I became a Jew in order to win Jews. To those under the law I became as one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those under the law. Paul adapts to the gospel presentation to his audience. We need to do the same. If you're in the mall, if you're on the street, if you're down in Newport, you need to always apply the same principles and just don't talk down to people, just talk with people. If they're Jewish, you need to adapt the message from that perspective. If there's a Jehovah's Witness on your door, talk to them the way you would talk to anybody else. And don't look down on them. If it's a Muslim, respect them and treat them with love and dignity. And don't treat people as non-believers. Adapt your message to your audience and speak with kindness, and I think you will find it being effective. Number 3, adapt and do not conform. Probably the centerpiece of this whole topic. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, and what is acceptable and perfect. Back to my Octopus teacher, Greg Foster shares this thought. These are his words. If you gain the trust of what animal over a period of time, it will actually ignore you to a certain degree and carry on with its normal life and allow you to step inside its secret world. The octopus showed me many behaviors, and they were completely new to science because the animal trusted me. If we're not being conformed into the image of God by renewing of our mind and God's Spirit, then we're not being conformed. Then we're being conformed into the image of this world. It is either one or the other. The word conform simply means with pressure. So with pressure, you're being pushed or squeezed into a shape or a mold. And I need the renewal of my mind, so I'm not under that pressure, right? I'm being flexible. I'm being transformed. I'm being expanded. I'm being an effective witness. I'm doing the things I'm supposed to be doing. But with pressure, you'll be jammed into a shape. Number 4, try to please those about you, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, that they might be saved. Once again, Paul is trying to show you that he's trying to meet people's needs. He's trying to please people, and he's trying to gain an advantage for these Gentiles at the time. He's trying to do this with everything he does. He doesn't try to be not just a people pleaser. On the contrary, he's trying to help them. But at the same time, he's not compromising his beliefs for the sake of anything else. He's just trying to please others that he might gain a chance to share the gospel. I always say I'm a bridge builder. I can't share the gospel till I build the bridge and rescue the perishing. That's what Paul's saying here. Number 5, this too shall pass, and it's only for a season. Everything's a season, and for a time there are every matter under heaven. That's Ecclesiastes. That's written by Solomon. He was a very wise man. And we're going through major changes. And out of this book of literature, there are times and seasons that under heaven that we need to just acknowledge that God's sovereign. No matter what happens in the election next week, God's sovereign. And he's doing what he's doing for this exact time in our lives. And whether we feel it or we don't feel it, you need to let this pass in this season. So number 6, things happen for a greater reason. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called to his purpose. Back to Paul. Paul's encouraging the church right there in Rome. No matter what happens, it's part of God's will. It's either good or bad. It doesn't mean that only good things are according to his purpose. Sometimes there are bad things that work out a different purpose. It's like Joseph telling his brothers that all that they meant was for evil, but God turned it to good. That's way back in Genesis. So whatever is going on, you need to adapt in this life so that God is going to use it for his purpose and for your ultimate good. By the way, your ultimate good. Number 7, Jesus is always there with you. Jesus emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born of a likeness of men, and being found in human form. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. If you were to think about Jesus and what he went through, he emptied himself out. He stripped off all the royalty, we'll call it, and he became like you and me. And he became humble, and he became so humble that they actually crucified him. He adopted his nature from being just God to being both God and man, right? And he was born in the flesh, and so he could atone for you and take care of you. And that was the best example of adapting, but not conforming. Even with his purpose, he walked the streets, he sat on the side of the road, he talked to people, he met people where they were. And he fulfilled his purpose by seeking people to himself, and that they might glorify him. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And for those of us who are his people, we need to be like him. We need to adapt to be like him. And again, not be conformed to this world, but to start to adapt, become the example that God wants us to be. And we need to look no further than Jesus. Thanks for joining me this morning. It's been a blessing. Talked about My Octopus Teacher. It's a great documentary. It's safe for your children, and I recommend it. And I will see you soon. Remember, adapt and don't conform.